Hi, this is John with Beyond 20. I'm here today to show you how to use a web service call within a one-step. I'm going to open up this one-step here, and we're just going to jump right in. So I'm just going to edit this. And you can see this is a pretty basic one-step. There's only two parts to it. There's call a web service, where you basically are going to store the full result or the full JSON package that comes back from the API. So, and I'm just going to have that checked. You can store the return code and the headers, but we're not really interested in that stuff. We're just interested in the result. And then we're going to show that result in a pop-up. And we're going to do that with a text box just because it could potentially be kind of long depending on the result. But let's go ahead and jump into the service. So let's take a look at how the one service has been set up, or the web service has been set up. I'm just going to go ahead and edit this here. So here you'll see there's a URL that's been added. And this is for jsonplaceholder.typeofcode.com. This is just a publicly facing API. There's no authentication required for it. It's a pretty basic setup. There's no API key, nothing like that. So we're not going to be messing with any of that stuff today. There's no security type here, so that's going to be none for the security type. For the service type, that's going to be a basic REST API. And I'm going to always call the web service from Cherwell server. I'm going to click on the methods, and the method for this one is going to be called getSpecificInfo. I'm just going to click edit here, and for getSpecificInfo, we've got two endpoints. Now, endpoints are basically just little bits of information that you're going to add onto the end of the URL that you set up earlier. But for these labels, you're going to want to have these labels encased in curly brackets. It's crucial for passing information from Cherwell back to the web service API so that this becomes dynamic. Say for example, if you have the number 256 in a field somewhere on a record, you could potentially put that into this variable, and then you can kind of see how that becomes kind of powerful, and you can use that to your advantage. So within this endpoint, again, you have to have these encased in curly brackets. In Cherwell's support documentation, that's kind of like a hidden tip. It's not really a feature, but this is probably the most significant portion that I overlooked when I first started working with the web services. So again, this is generally how the URL is going to look once it's done. So you've got https://jsonplaceholder.typeofcode.com/type/number. And for the result type, we're going to want that to be JSON, and for the request type, we're going to want that to be GET, because that's the type of API call that we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and click Edit, because I've already added my parameters here. These are just endpoint parameters, and it's just going to be type, and the data type is going to be text, and then parameter type is going to be endpoint. Again, because this is an endpoint that we're adding to the end of the URL. And now these names, they're going to have to be specific, and they're going to want to match up exactly with what you have here, because these, again, this is how this becomes dynamic. This is how you pass information from Cherwell to the API call. So I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to click OK here as well. And back to the one step. I'm going to flip back to the method here. So this is where you could saw before where we had multiple methods you could add. This is the only one that's in here, so this is the only one that's dropped down. So in this parameters, I've hard-coded some data here. We're interested in the to-dos type of information to come out of this API, and we're also interested in the number 1 here. So basically, this is just the ID of the to-do. And then again, we're going to show that in a pop-up, and I'm just going to click OK, and I'm going to run. So this gives us back our basic JSON package that we get from the JSON placeholder at typeofcode.com. So this is coming straight from the web. This is coming from them to us through Cherwell. And you see here you've got your, basically this is kind of like a field setup. You say like the user ID equals 1, the ID equals 1, the title equals some amount of Latin text here, and then completed equals false. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go back into the one step, and I'm going to pull a different record. Let's see what that looks like. So, oops. Go back into the web service. I'm going to change this number. Let's change it to, we'll say 3. So I'm going to click OK. Run it again. You can see here we get a clearly different bit of data that comes back. You've got ID 3, because that's the record that we pulled. You've got a different title, and then you've got completed equals false, and the user ID is still equal to 1. So I'm going to click OK there. So say, for example, if you wanted to pull a specific bit of information out of that response, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to edit the result that you get back. And the way that you do that, an easy way to do that, is you basically go into the modifiers. So because Cherwell knows that this is a JSON response that we're getting back from the web service result, it's going to already be within the context of JSON. So I'm just going to right-click on the web service result and do modifiers. And I'm going to add a modifier here. And you can see there's different ways that you can modify the text that's coming back. And what we're interested in here is we're interested in the title object. So the modifier is find object, and the text is going to be title. And again, that's going to be that bit of Latin that comes back. And that's what it's called. It's called the title. So I'm going to click OK. OK. And run it again. There you go. You have that very basic bit of information that you're getting out of the API that you're interested in, and you don't really have to see all that other stuff. So you can see how this would be interesting, because in this one step, you can pass information from a record into those variable endpoints, and you can also pass data back from the API as you've modified that return result, and you can pass that basically back to whichever record it is that you're working with. So I hope you found some value in this, and I hope you get to use this a lot moving forward. And thanks for watching. All right, bye.